What's up? 2 minutes in the box with Gordo, April 3rd, 2025. Today, we're going to recap last night's thrilling games, latest news, rumors, and updates, and previewing tonight and futures of certain teams. Okay, first up, let's talk about the games that happened last night. All right. First up, we had 5 games on the dock. So New York Rangers winning against the Minnesota Wild 5-4 in overtime. Very valuable, crucial points for the New York Rangers and their chase for a wild card spot. And meanwhile, the Metropolitan rivalry matchup between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Washington Capitals. And the Ovechkin watch is yet again, Ovi is getting close to Wayne Gretzky. 3 to go to break the great one's all-time record of 894. He needs to get 3 more to be 895. And yeah, Carolina, yeah, I feel like they have locked and loaded for that second spot in the Metropolitan Division. And now we go over to the Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Crucial battle in the Atlantic Division. Toronto getting the dub, and the Florida Panthers division hopes of repeating are slipping away, but there's still some games left over. But very costly loss for the Florida Panthers, though. But Toronto getting ground of momentum of getting first spot in the Atlantic Division. But there is a 2 week and a half left in the season, and this division is getting tight, just like the wild card in the Eastern Conference. And we go over to Colorado Avalanche and the Chicago Blackhawks, though. I got to tell you, Colorado, no joke at all. 3-2 shootout win. And I got to tell you, they are a very, very dangerous team. Nietzsche is just unbelievable. Cal McCarr, 58 assists. This guy is the real deal. And Connor Bedard, got another assist. He's going to be projected to get 45, 46 assists this year. But I got to say this, the Blackhawks are in the lottery mix right now. Oh, yeah, they are definitely in the lottery mix right now. And a surprising upset blowout. Seattle Kraken 5-0 against the Vancouver Canucks. And the Vancouver Canucks playoff hopes are slipping away. And I'll tell you, Shane Wright, he's looking amazing out there. And I wouldn't be surprised that Shane Wright gets to be 23, maybe 24 goals at the end of the season. He's developing well. And don't forget about Capo Caco. He's doing much better and a fresh start over in Seattle than he was playing with the New York Rangers, the former second overall pick. And I'll tell you, watch out. Capo Caco is going to be getting 60 something points next season with the Kraken. And the Kraken might be releasing the Kraken, if you know what I mean. Oh, yeah. So let's go over for tonight's games. We got 9 games on the dock. Pittsburgh Penguins against the St. Louis Blues. Blues are on a tear, 15-2-2. I mean, I don't know what the hell they are doing, but it's really working. Jim Montgomery, unbelievable. They got this little bobblehead. I don't know, Jabo is his name is. I mean, I'll tell you, the Blues are a dangerous team. Watch out, 2019 St. Louis Blues. This is going to be a Blues Brothers sequel for the Blues, and their odds. I mean, never count out the Blues because this team might be cracking on everyone's brackets, once the playoffs seeded situation's all done. But the Blues, though, oh my God, the St. Louis Blues are a dangerous team. And we go up here, Boston Bruins against Montreal Canadiens. Montreal Canadiens are playing with fire right now. They are dominating as of lately. And they technically own the second seed wild card spot in the Eastern Conference. And the Boston Bruins, they are last place in the Eastern Conference for the first time since 1997. And that was the year when they had the number 1 overall pick, Joe Thornton, and they had a second first round pick with Sergei Samsonov. And I got to tell you, the Bruins, I mean, I got to say, it was an off year. It was bad for them. The Swayman contract, the holdout, it did not go well for the Bruins. And personally, I got to tell you, the Boston Bruins, you know, they might be back next year, but I wouldn't be surprised. You know, like everyone's tired of seeing Chicago trying to get the first pick, the San Jose Sharks. I mean, could you imagine if the Boston Bruins get the number one pick and they bounce back after having a horrendous year like this? Boy, this will be a good 360 turnaround. It's like the Golden State Warriors. But on the other hand, Wiseman, who was the second overall pick for the Warriors, turned out to be one of the biggest draft busts in NBA history. And just for a little advice for the Boston Bruins, be careful who you draft in the lottery. You don't want to lose your top lottery picks like what happened to Tyler Sagan and Dougie Hamilton. You got to secure them. Make sure you have the face of the franchise for the next 15 to 20 years in your organization. All right, so I'm not going to be surprised by this. I think Montreal's got this game in hand. Now you got the Tampa Bay Lightning against the Ottawa Senators, the 1992 expansion class. And I wouldn't be surprised Tampa Bay Lightning and the Ottawa Senators will have a close out battle. And the Ottawa Senators are owning the wild card one spot. Tampa Bay Lightning, they're trying to creep up on Toronto. And this Atlantic division is just wild, all right? It's just too crazy to call. I'm going to go with Ottawa. I know Brady Tkachuk's out of the lineup, but you never know. Expect the unexpected. And now you've got the Colorado Avalanche against the Columbus Blue Jackets. And I'll tell you, Nathan MacKinnon is a hell of an MVP candidate right here. 111 points. And Kirill Marchenko, man, he is definitely a bona fide underrated superstar. One of the best plus minuses in the NHL. I'm going to say Columbus might want to stay in this race, but Colorado, though, they are dangerous too. I wouldn't be surprised this will be a close battle towards the last 5 minutes of the game. I think this might go to overtime. And Columbus and Colorado, oh yeah, it's going to be a bloodbath. All right. We already talked about the Pittsburgh Penguins and the St. Louis Blues, but now we go to the Central Division matchup between the Nashville Predators and the Dallas Stars. The outdoor rivalry classic. And I got to say this, Dallas is on a mission. And Dallas is one of those teams, they want to climb to get that first spot in the Central Division. And they could be a very dangerous team when it comes to playoff time. And then meanwhile, at 9 o'clock, LA Kings play the Utah Hockey Club. LA Kings trying to maintain their positioning as second in the Pacific Division. They don't have a good road record. Their home record is awesome. They're in Utah. And Utah's a very tough team to play against while Utah's at home. And this one would be a very close matchup. I wouldn't be surprised it would be a close game in hand. And I think Utah still got a little fight in them. But LA, though, they really want home ice really bad in the first round against the Edmonton Oilers. And you got the Calgary Flames, the Anaheim Ducks in Calgary. I mean, the Ducks, they were somewhat in it, but they're going to be loosey-goosey. They're going to have fun with it. They're playing against Calgary. They still have a chance, but, we'll look at the standings, though. But the thing is, Calgary, they made a lot of progress with Dustin Wolf. Huberdeau's having a nice bounce back. Nazem Kadri, Uyghur. I'm telling you, this is a very good Calgary Flames team. Very underrated. I got this hunch that next year it will be their year to be back in the playoffs. All right, now you've got this interesting matchup between two of the top teams in the Western Conference, the Pacific leading Vegas Golden Knights and the Winnipeg Jets of the Central Division in Las Vegas. This could be a potential preview of the conference finals. Not like 2018 where Vegas single-handedly destroyed the Winnipeg Jets. And I'm telling you, this is going to be a tough, grudgy matchup. And this one would be a very, very close series or game tonight. It would be a very close game tonight. But, we got to play a little catch up. And meanwhile, the last game we got of the night is the Edmonton Oilers and the San Jose Sharks. Right there, I'm going to go with Edmonton. McDavid skating again. Draisaitl's out there again. San Jose can be sneaky and noisy, but Edmonton, they want to play catch up in the standings, though. Let's talk about the standings, shall we? In the Eastern Conference, the Toronto Maple Leafs last night clinched a playoff berth. Now they have 96 points. Meanwhile, The Tampa Bay Lightning, 93 points. Second place, Florida Panthers, third with 92. So basically, there's like 2.5 weeks left in the season, and there's still a good glimmer of hope and chance for Florida or Tampa to get the Atlantic Division. But for now, the Toronto Maple Leafs have first spot in the Atlantic Division. And now in the Metropolitan Division, Washington Capitals, 105, first place. Second place, the Carolina Hurricanes with 96. Third place, New Jersey Devils with 87. We already know who's going to be playing who in the first round between those two in the Metropolitan, the second and third place teams. Wild card 1 and 2, you've got Ottawa and Montreal with 79 for Montreal, 84 for Ottawa. So then you've got the Rangers with 79, Blue Jackets with 77, the Detroit Red Wings 75, and the New York Islanders with 74. And we already mentioned Boston is last in the Eastern Conference. Now you've got the Winnipeg Jets with 106, first place in the Central Division. The Dallas Stars second with 102, and the Colorado Avalanche third with 96. And Dallas is 4 points away of getting the first spot in the Central Division. And Winnipeg has been first about almost 95% of the season. That is just crazy. And Winnipeg's been on and off lately, but Dallas, though, they are on fire. Watch out for the Dallas Stars, guys. They are a dangerous team, and they are stacked and loaded and ready to go for a long, deep playoff run. Now in the Pacific Division, Vegas Golden Knights clinching a playoff berth yet again, and they are top in the Pacific Division with 98 points. Meanwhile, the LA Kings are second with 93. The Edmonton Oilers are third with 91. And meanwhile, in the wild card chase, it's a tie between Minnesota and St. Louis with 89 each. Minnesota's got wild card 1, the Blues wild card 2. And meanwhile, the Calgary Flames have 82 points. They are 7 points behind the wild cards 1 and 2. The Canucks, 81 points. They are 8 behind. And Utah Hockey Club, 80 points. They are 9 behind. And this is going to be fun, guys. This is going to be fun. And I'm looking at this. This is just cray to look at. And this is like watching the stock market, real estate on Wall Street. And I'll tell you, this is going to be obnoxious. We'll have to see what happens tomorrow, though. All right, now, let's talk about Mitch Marner, okay? High-profile, unrestricted free agent. He's expected to make on the open market 15 million, maybe 16 million. I don't know if Toronto could afford him. Just something tells me, I believe that, a certain GM who's very familiar with might be coming to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Sidney Crosby is not getting any younger. Malkin's not getting any younger. Letang not getting younger. I wouldn't be surprised that Mitch Marner, he's got a lot of suitors. Mitch Marner could go to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Mitch Marner could go to the Chicago Blackhawks. Mitch Marner could go to Utah Hockey Club. Mitch Marner could go to Anaheim. Mitch Marner can go to the Carolina Hurricanes. I mean, Mitch Marner can go literally anywhere. And I got to say, let's see how this playoff run goes for Mitch Marner. I mean, I know he's a local boy. He wants to stay in Toronto, but, Toronto's got too many superstars. You can't hold them hostage forever, but I really think we're going to see a very crazy offseason when it comes to Mitch Marner. But see this team, the Pittsburgh Penguins? You love that old school, nostalgic, inaugural 1967-68 jersey? Yeah. I believe Mitch Marner could be a Pittsburgh Penguin next season. Besides Chicago and Utah, Anaheim, and Carolina, Pittsburgh's got some cap space. And, I gotta say it's either down to Pittsburgh or Chicago or Utah, Carolina, or Anaheim for Mitch Marner at the point. Yeah, that's what I see. And speaking of the Pittsburgh Penguins, their future, I mean, I'll tell you, dynasties have consequences, and sacrifice as well. And I gotta believe that the Penguins are going to be rebuilding. They're gonna get all the draft picks and all that stuff developed in the farm and in college and overseas. The Pittsburgh Penguins, I wouldn't be surprised that they will be a lottery team getting the number one pick next year, trying to get Gavin McKenna. But I'll tell you, I'll listen here. I think Pittsburgh has got a long road to getting back to respectability. I mean, like I said, dynasties and winning Stanley Cups and championships have consequences and a lot of sacrifice when it comes to trading young draft picks and prospects away. And it's costly. You know, it's a big gamble. It's a big gamble. The Penguins, the Red Wings, and the Blackhawks, they're learning it the hard way in a salary cap era. Dynasties and championships have consequences and sacrifices. And certain teams, like LA, who's won two Stanley Cups, they're back in contention. And there's some teams like, looking at the portfolio of certain NHL teams, post during the salary cap era, the Washington Capitals, they did a nice retool. They done very well. Tampa Bay Lightning, they made some adjustments this past offseason. They barely made it to the playoffs last year. This time, they are in second place in the Atlantic Division, and they're doing much better. And looking at this, Carolina, they've had a crazy up and down rebuild and all that stuff for many years, for a long time. I know they won a cup in 06, but very crazy indeed. And the Hurricanes are finally a consistent playoff contention team that's trying to get attention to be in competition and contention of winning their second Stanley Cup. And going on in the Western Conference, though, Colorado, they've had some weird years, but, they got their cup in about 3 years ago. I mean, Vegas, they've only missed the playoffs once, but Vegas is one of those teams like, man, they will do anything. It's like Rain Man over there. The Vegas Golden Knights are like Rain Man. They just throw away their prospects and draft picks, and they still contend. They've only missed the playoffs once since they joined the NHL in 2017. This team is destined for special things to come. And looking at the numbers, I mean, LA is one of the only few teams in Tampa Bay. They bounced back from to and the Washington Capitals to a retool rebuild. They did it well, but you got to stay on course. All right. Now the Nashville Predators, though. Nashville, I'll tell you about Nashville. There's talks about they might get rid of one of the two high profile offensive free agents they signed in the offseason. They might either get rid of Jonathan Marchessault or Steven Stamkos. And looking at those two players' numbers, and I'll tell you between those two, if I were Nashville, Nashville's got a very difficult choice to make here. All right. They have a very difficult choice to make. You've got Jonathan Marchessault, 73 games played this season with 19 goals, 30 assists, 49 points with a minus 26. Meanwhile, Steven Stamkos, 23 goals, 22 assists, 45 points with a minus 31 in 75 games. Oh man, what a majorly disappointment for Nashville. Nashville spent all that money and they basically screwed up the whole season. I mean, like, no one thought that Nashville would be in the basement. They are considered a lottery team at best right now. It's not looking good for them. And if I were Nashville right now, you know, yeah, you got to find a team that's willing to take some cap on. And I know Nashville, they could be a lot, they could win the lottery. Could you imagine if they get the first overall pick, they get an offensive player, and that offensive player can learn a lot from Marchie and Stammer, like both Stanley Cup champs, and so is Ryan O'Reilly. You've got a very good roster, with Nashville. Boston, they've got a good roster. Certain organizations you got raw. If I was a young player being drafted, I would not want to play in Chicago nor in San Jose because I don't have the support cast that I want. I mean, someone goes, "Oh, you want to play with Connor Bedard?" I'm like, "No, I don't want to play for the Blackhawks." They don't have that support cast that I'm looking for. I want to play with someone like the players who have won and they know what the hell they're doing. Oh yeah. And going to the Seattle Kraken though, I just don't see them rebuilding. You know, I would say maybe not this season, but next. If Seattle doesn't turn their ship around, they've been to the playoffs once. That was 2 years ago. They went to the second round of the playoffs. They beat Colorado. They lost in the second round. All right. So let's just say that Seattle's got some things to fix. Seattle Kraken have a lot to fix for, this upcoming offseason. And I'm telling you guys, I really think Seattle, I mean, Ron Francis could be on a very short leash right now. And, they lost to Dallas in the second round. They took them to 7 games 2 years ago. But I'm going to feel that the Seattle Kraken, this team, I got to say, you know, I feel like, Ron Francis still has some players to build upon. And I give him another year or two, and then if Seattle doesn't provide improvement, not this offseason, but beyond this upcoming offseason 2026, I think it's time to cut Ronnie Francis loose. But Seattle, I think they've got a good team, but not great. I think they still have a lot to figure out right now. And I'll tell you, the Florida Panthers, interesting signing Anton Lundmark from Sweden, 1 year deal. The dude's 6'4", 230 center. I really like what this kid's going to bring to the table. And I really like what I see from Anton Lundmark. Anton Lundmark, he is one of those dudes. He's a big dude, 6'4", only 23 years old. And this past season playing the Swedish league, 5 goals, 4 assists, 9 points with a +2. He's a big dude, guys. He's a big dude. Plays both left wing and right wing. Shoots right. He's a strong skater. Plays a two-way game. I wouldn't be surprised that he will split between Charlotte and Florida this upcoming off season when he's going to be officially a Florida Panther 25-26. Yeah. And then now we have Anthony Duclair. He is out of the lineup for the New York Islanders for the rest of the season. Duke, you might have heard that him and Patrick Waugh had a little issue with one another. And basically, Duclair is taking a break from hockey after Patrick Waugh destroyed Duclair's self-esteem. And Patrick Waugh, what he said to him. So basically, what we're looking at is that Duclair, you know, Patrick Waugh's quotes, I mean, just wow. And basically he was there. Patrick Waugh said that Duclair was there, but he was god awful. And the Islanders are in very crucial situation, 5 points behind a playoff spot, but he had a bad game, and Patrick Waugh didn't want to play him, and he's lucky he's in the lineup, but sorry if I lose it on him right now, but that's how I feel. That's what Patrick Waugh talked about, and only played 11 minutes and 5 seconds in Tampa on Saturday, 10 minutes in Carolina on Sunday, and Tuesday, 12 minutes and 15 seconds. And Duclair, who signed a 4 year contract with the Islanders this past offseason, is not having a good year in a reunion with Patrick Waugh. And, Patrick Waugh coached Duclair for the Quebec Ramparts. And Duke's been out of the lineup most of the season so far. And basically, Anthony Duclair right now is taking a leave of absence. And Patrick Waugh mentioned he's had a good meeting, good conversation with Duke, very positive, and said that, and Anthony asked me to take some time to reflect. And so obviously I agreed to that, and we will give him all the time that he needs. And the question is whether Duke would play the final 8 games, but it's unclear at this point. And Matt Martin is back in the lineup for the New York Islanders. And I'll tell you, Duke has had a very unique, past couple seasons. I mean, a few seasons ago, he was part of that Florida Panthers Stanley Cup final run. And Duclair, on the other hand, you know, it's been a very underwhelming season for the New York Islander. 44 games played with 7 goals, 4 assists, 11 points, and a minus 15. Those aren't sexy numbers. And Anthony Duclair, like he's a former All-Star. And don't forget, the guy had 31 goals and 27 assists 3 seasons ago. Then he had an Achilles tear in his final year with the Panthers. Still played well. And I'll tell you, I just don't think Duke is handling things his way, but I think it's the right thing that Patrick Waugh did. You got to have constructive criticism for your player. And Duke, he isn't living up to the advertising and the expectations. And, and this guy right here, and looking at the numbers, $14 million, 4-year contract. Everyone thought he was going to be a good 1-2 punch with Matt Barzell, but it's not looking good. Honestly, I think it's a good thing that he's taking a break for the rest of the season. And I really consider that, Anthony Duclair, he will be back in the lineup, you know, towards the end, but we'll have to wait and see on this. This is going to be a very interesting stretch to the final leg of the rest of the season. So this has been 2 Minutes in the Box with Gordo. We'll be back here tomorrow for a new episode of 2 Minutes in the Box with Gordo. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, True Social, TikTok, Rumble, etc. And remember, this is a show, it's a daily grind of news, updates, and rumors. This has been 2 Minutes in the Box with Gordo. Have a great day.